How you doing, man?
I am doing great, mate. How are you? Big month coming up with the new album out.
Yeah, I'm doing fabulous. Pumped to finally unleash this damn thing. It's been a long time.
How long's it been in the work for? I know it's been a decade since the last release, but how long's Moon Healer kind of been growing, I guess?
It's honestly kind of hard to pinpoint. It's been kind of touch and go since shortly after Sun Eater, honestly. Tony, our lead guitar player, started writing shortly after that. So it's just been bits and pieces, long break, bits and pieces, long break. But we did a side project a few years back called Serpentinosis, and it's with the our two guitar players, myself, and there's Max from the Black Diameter on bass.
Yep.
Um, that kind of was a catalyst to kind of really put all the pieces together. Finally, I mean, we had before that we just kind of had just a giant pile of nonsense that wasn't that well organized. I think we were all a little scared isn't the right word, but reluctant to kind of jump into the fray of just writing a whole album. It's just
Yeah.
for it's just so much work with how much stuff we were doing in our normal lives at the time. But after Serpentinosis, we kind of figured out a method to how we can get it done. So luckily we did that, and shortly after that we kind of put all the pieces together, and here we are.
Here we are finally for all this time.
Right.
And it makes sense that you kind of said it's come right after Sun Eater as well. I guess Sun Eater, Moon Healer. Is it kind of almost like a continue on of that previous album or a part two, if you will?
Yeah, it totally is. We try to make it pretty obvious
Yeah.
with the album title. After Sun Eater, it was kind of bittersweet. We released it. We did no press. We did no interviews. We played no shows. It just kind of came out one day, and it felt almost we had unfinished business with that, and the concept in and of itself felt like there was a lot more meat on the bone.
Mm.
Um, so not only that, we were so happy with the direction of the band, and it just felt the most obvious just to pick up where we left off.
Yeah.
So that's why this is a continuation from our previous record.
And with the previous record as well, like you said, no shows, no tour, didn't really do anything for it after it came out. Are you going to add some of those tracks to the set list along with the new stuff?
Of course,
Yeah.
yes. We really like those songs, and we really want to play them live. We played some shows earlier in September.
Mm.
We played a handful of tracks from Sun Eater, and it just feels awesome to play them. I mean, it just feels awesome to play as a band again, but let alone just those songs in and of itself was just the icing on the cake.
I was going to say, after all the time away, I know you're no stranger to being on the stage still, but were there any nerves with actually getting job for a Cowboy back onto the stage for the first time, or did it just feel like you never left and felt natural, slip right?
No, totally. It was definitely nerve wracking, especially we played a big festival called Blue Ridge Festival in the States. There's a lot of negative backlash surrounding it. Thankfully, it was 3 days. Our day was the day that went off without a hitch. I have no complaints, and I honestly think a lot of that negativity is just from circumstances that the festival just had no control over. It was just horrendous weather,
Yeah.
to be fair. Um, but no, it was a bit terrifying to a degree. I mean, it has been a long time, and you just have these dreams where you just go on stage and you just forget everything. I've always had these recurring dreams, even when I was in the band, that I just go on stage and I just blanked, like I don't remember a damn thing. But no, as soon as we hit the first note, it was just I walked in that time machine and I went back 10 years ago when we were, relentlessly active and playing shows. It's just once it all starts, it's like riding a bike, I suppose.
Yeah. Was I crazy? I was going through some videos on YouTube. Did Will Ramos join you on stage for that first show at Blue Ridge?
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never met Will. I don't. Before that, I mean, obviously, I'm familiar with his band because his band just
Blew up.
blew up, and it's kind of interesting. A lot of people make comparisons of parallels of our band. Us when the Doobie EP came out, and then now with Lorna Shore. But no, he just ran. I think I don't totally remember how it happened. He just randomly hit us up on social media and said, "Hey, you want to come out during Entombment of a Machine?" And that was pretty much it. Really cool guy.
It's crazy how things happen like that with social media
I
these
mean,
days.
yeah, for sure. Especially the death metal, deathcore. Um, it's such a niche genre. It really
Mm.
is a small world in the end. There's really only, you know, handfuls of dudes kind of doing this stuff on a big level. So it's a small world, but again, really cool guys.
It's
I'm
interesting you
sure.
say that as well with the there's only a small amount kind of doing it on a big level. I don't know if it was the pandemic or something, but this kind of extreme genre niche kind of blew up in the last 3 years, I guess, really. Like Ramos is a good example. Slaughter to Prevail is another good one of just these bands that are getting massive play at that extreme level. Do you think there's any rhyme or reason on why people are kind of flocking to the heavier stuff? Because I know people who never would have touched like this extreme level, like Job for a Cowboy, Slaughter, Lorna. But now all these bands have become extremely popular. Is there any rhyme or reason to it, or do you just think it's evolution?
Uh, you know, I thought about that recently. I've actually had this discussion with some friends, especially when Job for a Cowboy blew up back in the day in
Mm.
the mid to late 2000s. Stuff like Headbangers Ball was really prevalent. It was much bigger then, and then it kind of petered out after stuff like that. Headbangers Ball shortly stopped, and um, I don't really know what it was that kind of stopped that train, or as to what started it. I've tried to pinpoint it. I wish I knew. Maybe it's just like with everything else. Everything comes in cycles.
Mm.
Maybe we're in that cycle of heavy music, and in 3 to 5 years it'll peter out again, and maybe that's just how it works. But I don't know. If you have any ideas, I'd love to hear it.
Mate, I'd love to know. I think it's different. I've shown people who don't listen to music, oh, not music, heavy music, like metal at all, like not
Yeah.
sort of stuff. And I don't know, they've even said it's something about the deepness in the voice that resonates to them for some reason. Like I've got a friend now who's into Job for a Cowboy, all that stuff, but he doesn't listen to anything kind of below that, not a Kill Switch, not a Metallica. He just resonates to that style of music.
Huh.
And he can't even tell me why he does.
Yeah, that's interesting. Especially for me, I kind of grew up with gateway bands. I grew up on Megadeth, Pantera,
So
Primus, stuff like that. Um, that's interesting. I don't know.
yeah.
It is strange. Maybe COVID does have some relation to it. People just losing their minds at home. I don't know what it could be.
Yeah, I don't know, but we're here for it. We might as well kind of ride the roller coaster while it's going.
For sure. Yeah.
Are you looking forward to getting back on the road kind of full time to promote this album as well? Because is there any plans? I know we're all the way on the other side of the world. You guys, I don't think have been down here for what, 14, 15 years now as well. Is there any
Yeah, it's been a
chance
long
of
time.
getting Job for a Cowboy down to Australia again?
I hope so, man.
Yeah.
We're definitely not going to tour as excessively as we did in the past. After the band kind of hit the brakes after I learned I was going to become a father, and some guys went back to college, like myself. I worked on my degree in computer programming. The guitar player went back to school for his doctorates in the medical field, so he does a lot of medical research in Ireland now.
Hmm.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is we're all very busy with, I guess, lack of a better word for or term, is just real life is just getting in the way of things. So we're trying to align our schedules to do stuff. I'm sure be on the lookout. We're going to likely make some announcements very soon. But yeah, man, I'd love to come back to Australia. I think the last time we were there, we were with, I think we went with Behemoth and Revocation and Goat Horror.
Shit.
I think it was the last time we were there.
Shit.
Uh, um, but yeah, I fortunately I can't say anything yet, but just be on the lookout.
Yeah. No, and like you mentioned, being side to a musician's life. It's not just all the music, and finding time, especially doing 18-hour flight out to Australia, is not necessarily the easiest thing to do. But fingers crossed, you can kind of make the stars align on that one.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so.
Continue with the new album again as well. I've been trying to kind of pinpoint what it's about. I know it's all about, there's a concept to it, but I haven't been able to pinpoint it. Is there a little bit you can kind of shed some light on for me? Because there's definitely some interesting song titles on this one.
Yeah. Our previous album, Sun Eater, it's essentially a collection of songs that tell a story of a very close friend of the band um, who experimented with a lot of hallucinogenic drugs. And he became a bit of a alchemist himself, I guess you
Hmm.
could say. He would brew his own drugs from home, and he'd be his own guinea pig. And I think it turned into a bit of form of drug abuse where um, he lost a touch of reality a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it brought out some maybe inner schizophrenia and bipolar disorders that were buried deep within him, and I think these drugs kind of brought it all out. So Sun Eater was kind of a third person perspective on how that affected his life and what that did to him. And this new record, Moon Healer, is more of a first person perspective. Like, for instance, this particular individual would send emails to family and very close friends, and I happen to be one of them, of all of their religious and conspiracy beliefs, just their thoughts on the universe, the world, life after death, and it was all very scatterbrained and all over the place. And I reference with Moon Healer, I referenced those emails and kind of dug further and kind of put myself into his shoes and looked at things through his eyes to try to have a better understanding. It's kind of interesting now how all these things he talked about now click and they make more sense. Um, but that's the general idea and concept between the two records.
Do you find it easier to write like that than just kind of, choosing a song, writing about it, whatever you are, and then moving on to the next one? Do you find it easier to do an album when you've got kind of like a narrative like that to do, or is it a bit more challenging? Does it take more time to kind of break it down to make sure the story, I guess, flows and kind of fits and makes sense to at least yourself?
Yeah, I think it's both. It is easier and more difficult. It's easier in the sense because you have the idea for every song, um, and you could write about it if you have a concept and theme. Versus, you know, hey, I'm just going to randomly write a song about this versus that and this and that. The only problem with that is you need so much. You need something with the concept has to have so much behind it, and you have to really dig pretty deep into it just to have enough material to write, 8 to 9 songs, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. And how important is the album artwork after that to kind of tie into it to visually capture the message you're going on with, or do you kind of just put it out there and whatever catches your eye catches your eye?
No, it's super important. And the artist Tony Cole or Keel, I always forget how to pronounce his last name. He did our artwork for Sun Eater, and he did our artwork for Moon Healer as well. He's a person that honestly reminds me very much of this individual that we wrote about. So it kind of tied in perfectly. I see when I talk to him, I see a lot. I see a lot of parallels and correlation between the two. So as soon as I explained the concepts and ideas to him, he just immediately understood and knew what I was trying to get at. You bring it up to him, and the first thing he sent was like, "Oh, this is perfect. You nailed it."
Yeah. And that's a sign of a
Yeah,
good artist as well. Just someone who can take these ideas and you put pen to paper because sometimes it's hard. You can write stuff, but to actually visualize the image is a difficult thing in itself.
totally.
Yeah.
Especially with these ideas and themes that are so niche and just vague. It's just, yeah, I think he did a great job.
It's probably still too fresh for you to be able to tell me, and I don't expect an answer on this one. But do you have any favorite tracks on the new album? Anything that kind of resonates with you more than the others?
Yeah, I am kind of sick of the record at this point, to be honest, because writing it and for instance, when we make a record, it's a complete democracy. If some person in the band doesn't like a riff or a section or a part, we throw it in the trash. So, like I said earlier, it's a really long and arduous process. We really overanalyze everything.
Mm.
Um, but the record's been finished for a while. I've came back and reflected a little bit, and as of right now, I think my favorite track has been "The Sun Gave Me Ashes, So I Sought Out the Moon."
And that's probably my favorite title as well. I like how you put that one together. Was that a reference? Well, I guess you don't have to tell me, but was that a reference, like a line in one of those emails you got from your friend? Because it's a very
It,
interesting sentence.
um, I will say, yes, it did. It wasn't verbatim, but it did spark the idea. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. I really love the idea of this album. And now that I've got a bit more of what it's about, re-listening to it's going to be very interesting trying to pick out everything. But it's been great. I love it. I think fans are going to love it as well. Do you have any music videos coming out again before the drop?
Yes, we have one coming out. I guess technically it'd be 2 days. We have one coming out Wednesday. I don't know when we're going to put this out, but we have a next video coming out called "The Chemical Doorway." It's the opening track on the album. So I'm sure by the time we put this out, the
Yep.
new video and track will be out as well.
Yeah, it will definitely beat me to it. No, that's great, mate. Before I let you go today, is there anything you wanted to say or bring up, especially to the Aussie fans that might be watching this before I let you go?
No, I mean I have a very just crazy fond memories of playing in Australia. All the shows have been amazing, and obviously just a beautiful and amazing place in general. But just check out the record. Hope you guys dig it, and that pretty much sums it up.
Beautiful. Well, we might as well leave it there, mate. Thank you so much. Fingers crossed you can make your way down here again. Love to see you. But it's been great. You have a fantastic day.